Hey, welcome to Let the Light in TV. I'm Craig Christoffersen, and today we've got the Samyang 75mm T1.9 VAF lens. This is an FE lens, full frame lens for the Sony E mount. I am testing it on the Sony A7IV. Now, the reason why we are so up close today is because the 75mm is on the camera body and it is shooting at T2.5 right now, just so you know that it'll be what it is for the rest of the video. So, this is the world's first cinematic autofocus lens lineup provided to you by Samyang. The price of the 75 specifically, just the 75mm alone, is $650 US. Now this lens comes in a set, so it's the 20, the 24, the 35, the 45, the 75, and the 100mm lens. You have all of those options, so you can mix and match however you would please. Now these are cinematic lenses, which means you would expect them to have, or you would at least desire them to have, the same kind of specifications, the same kind of features within the same placement on the lens itself. And so the good news for you, as you can see here, is that all of these lenses are the exact same height. They all have, in fact, even the same balance point within the lens. And so this is a wonderful, wonderful feature in the way that Samyang has built these lenses, and that if you are a gimbal user, for example, whenever you swap out your lens, it's gonna have the same weighting, it's gonna have the same dimensions. So if you're using follow focus, it makes it very easy. If you're using a gimbal, it makes it very simple to switch it out. You don't have to rebalance your gimbal or anything like that. You don't have to spend time messing around with things. You keep going, you keep shooting, because they are all the same. Now the headline features of this lens, it's a 75mm T1.9 cinematic lens with autofocus. It supports sensors up to 8K quality. It is compact, it is lightweight, you can use it. It's going to be great for gimbals, but as well Samyang is advertising it for drones as well. I don't have a drone that would be compatible with this lens, so it is just on-camera testing is what I have here for you today. It has an LED tally lamp on both the front of the lens as well as on the side, which I find nice. I enjoy it. It's red when you are recording, green when on standby, and so I enjoy the tally lens personally. It's got a custom function switch for focus save. All of these lenses, all in the set, are rocking a 58mm filter thread. And finally, you've got accessory options for the front of the lens, which we will get into just a little bit later. But first, let's get into one more last detail. All of these lenses are color matched, which is fantastic. It means the coloring is going to be the same. For example, here's the 24, here's a 35, here's a 75. You can see throughout all of these shots, the colors are the same, which is going to make color grading a breeze when it comes to post-production work. Now let's talk about the aperture ring slash the focus ring, since it's the exact same ring. There's not an excessive amount of controls on this lens, and so there is one ring. Now it is got some great grip on it. Its rotation is nice and smooth, and there's also, you see this little switch here, M1, M2 switch. So the way that this is set up for me is in M1, the ring, the control ring on the lens becomes an aperture ring. So in M1 mode for me, it's an aperture ring, but if I go to M2, it switches and becomes a focus ring, and I control the aperture on the camera body itself. That's how it's set up for me. That's what M1, M2 does for me, but you can switch those functions if you so desire to different things, whatever you would really like them to be. When it comes to autofocus, each lens in the series features a focus save button that is located there on the left-hand side of the lens. And you will see now a focus pull test come up on your screen. And for an focused lens, right, this is a big selling point. You'll see it's hitting its mark each and every single time. So these are very trustworthy lenses when it comes to autofocus. you can trust that it's going to be in focus, it's going to hit its mark every single time. Now, when it comes to focus breathing, this is probably the worst lens in the set from what I've tested. I've tested the 24, the 35, today we're on the 75. This seems to be the worst when it comes to focus breathing out of those three. However, it claws points back when it comes to chromatic aberrations. I'll throw the test up here. You know, I'm shooting a little olive branches here in front of a very bright window. And this is by far the most impressive lens when it comes to this set, when it comes to chromatic aberrations. This is the best of the bunch. In fact, the chromatic aberrations, you'll see there's essentially no green fringing, and even the purple or magenta fringing for in front of the focus is very minimal. It's very, very controlled. It's almost really next to negligible. So a very impressive performance when it comes to controlling chromatic aberrations. Lens flares, it does have a multi-layer coating to reduce flaring, but there is some flaring going on here. Now, it wasn't something that I struggled with at all while I was shooting in harsh sunlight, you know, during the middle of the day. I didn't struggle with it at any point, but that's just so that you can see, you know, pointing it directly at the sun so you can see what would happen if that is going to be what you are shooting in. All right, let's take a little interruption to our program. Let's talk about the manual focused adapter for these VAF series lenses. So why would you get this? Well, of course, on the lens itself, you don't have any distance markings and you only have the one ring, right? You don't have an aperture ring and a focus ring. It's one ring. So to put this on the lens, this is the attachment right here. You go ahead, you put that on the lens, lock it in place, and now you have your distance markings. Now, this will likely depend on personal preference. Some people may like this, some people may not. So I'm going to clarify with you that this is right now my personal opinion. When it comes to manual focus throws, whether it's actually with the ring of the lens itself or with this attachment, when it comes to focus throws, focus pulls is difficult to pull off by hand if your distance is a little bit too long. Now, you know, if you're rotating, for example, from 3.5 meters to 8 meters, well, that's really quite a simple rotation, right? And you don't have to move that too far. And that's very achievable. However, if you're really trying to go from foreground to background, then the focus throw becomes really quite big, right? So let's say we're going from 0.6 and I want to go to something 3 meters away. Well, you know, we're going half of the way around. Again, that's getting bigger, but what if I'm going to, you know, something 10 meters away? Well, in this example, you'll see here that I actually do struggle with rotating the focus ring far enough to go all the way into the background. So this is something, these are the plants on my desk right here. You can see them in camera, and it's going to the kind of little bookshelf I've got just on the back wall here. And this is a distance of, let's say, 2.5 meters. I could not rotate it enough in one turn. In fact, you can see I'm actually shaking the camera, I'm moving the camera while trying to get that focus throw. And so, again, it may depend on your personal opinion. You may like a lot of space to work with, but as you can see at the top here, it's it's almost 360 degrees of rotation on this manual focus adapter itself. So really huge focus throw distances when it comes to rotating that ring around and trying to hit your mark. Now, you know, having those distances does make it repeatable and it's going to make you a whole lot more accurate. But the problem is having enough room to work with and not trying to, you know, judder the camera while you achieve that focus throw. So really, again, my personal opinion, my suggestion is to use some type of focus follow, focus pull tool. You can find those on Amazon. Just, you know, Google focus puller tool, it'll pop up for you. That's my suggestion when it comes to this lens. But hey, you may like the amount of precision that you can get within that. So that's your call.
let's get back to the closing comments for the lens today.
All right, so let's wrap up today's review. This lens, and specifically this set of lenses, are going to be great if you want consistent color across the board. All of these lenses are color matched, which means your color grading in post-production is going to be a very simple process. You don't have to try and match things before you go and do your color grading. They are color matched, so that is a great bonus of the lens. Additionally, these are so small, they are light, they are compact. I mentioned it in, I think, the 35mm video. You know, I tested out some TT Artisan cinematic lenses, manual focus lenses, and they were just so heavy. They were really big lenses. They weren't bad per se. They were good lenses, but I like these more because they are small, they are compact, they're so easy to switch out, they're lightweight. And so if you're using, you know, focus pulling gear, everything's in the same area. If you are using a gimbal, these are super lightweight. So you don't need a super expensive gimbal that can take a heavier payload. You can use, you know, perhaps a cheaper option and save some money there when it comes to the gimbal if you don't already have one purchased. But it's also going to be great whenever you switch out those lenses and you don't have to rebalance the gimbal itself. So these lenses are going to be very useful for people who are looking to use kind of those add-on tools within their kit. Additionally, this 75mm having next to none chromatic aberrations is fantastic, so that, you know, whenever you want to shoot these cinematic shots, you don't have to worry about any chromatic aberrations coming in and ruining your scene. So there it is. That is a Samyang 75mm VAF-FE lens for the Sony E-mount. I hope that it was informative for you today. If you want a little bit more information and how this lens does in regards to photos, here's a link to Dustin Abbott's review, the definitive review. It'll give you a nice deep dive there as well. And if you would like to purchase the lens, then the buying links are down below. You can go ahead and choose your marketplace of choice. If this video was informative, go ahead and give it a like, consider subscribing. Other than that, I hope you have a wonderful day, take care, and remember to let the light in.